Welcome to A Lunch with Biggie, a podcast about small business and creatives sharing their stories and inspiring you. My guest today is a marketing and strategy consultant who's also a writer, a storyteller, and a co-host of Orlando Story Club. Please welcome Bobby Wesley on the show. What's going on, Bobby?
Hey, man. It's great to be here, Barry. Good to see you.
Thank you, man. Thanks for spending some time during my lunch break. I really appreciate that.
Of course, man. Yeah, lunch is a great break for the day, and it's always good to have a nice conversation with a friend. So
Heck yeah, man. Heck yeah. What's your go-to lunch sandwich?
Oh, lunch sandwich. Okay. So lunch is great. First of all, I'm just locally, I'd love to jump into a la carte is one of my favorite go-to places because
Nice.
you can meet friends. The staff there is great, and I can have a beer while getting whatever. Like anything, steak it easy is delicious if I stop by there. But yeah, a midday beer lunch. I could go on forever. Sideward Brewery. Yeah, man. I love going to Sideward. Like their whole menu is spectacular, and their beer is really good, and their people are nice. So yeah, I would start top to bottom. I would go through the Sideward menu. And breakfast is good any day, any time of day. I love a breakfast sandwich anytime. Like someone else cooking my eggs is my favorite thing in the world. So
how do you like your eggs?
Oh, I mean, like if I could only have one, like kind of like over easy, because then it can fit into a sandwich. I can dip my toast in it. I can whatever else. So yeah, man. So anybody that's going to make me a good breakfast sandwich, I'm good with.
And something that you left in my show notes, which I thought was very interesting, and I have to bring it up because it obviously does involve with eggs, is you love a good BLT, but you like it as a belt. Like
Yes.
You want it.
Yes, I if we could start this now, maybe I can draft you into my movement. I think there should be a national movement to legally require every BLT to be called and changed a belt, because an over easy egg in the midst of like nicely lightly toasted bread that gets all your BLT ingredients, nice thick bacon. But if you put that over easy egg in the middle, cut it in half, man, that is going to change your entire life. Like, yeah, that's the best way to do it. I mean, I don't know why you would. A BLT is lovely, but as soon as you've thrown an egg in there, it's like a whole. It's a whole experience.
Yeah, no, I'm for that. I'm for either way, either with egg or without egg. I definitely understand that.
Anything that gets people more eggs, I'm in favor of.
Yeah, I could tell you're in an egg movement. Extra protein for everyone. So I have a bunch of things I want to talk to you about. So I know in one of the things I brought up in the intro, your day job, you're a marketing strategist consultant who helps like definitely different brands and different companies. And I'm, from my understanding, you kind of like help retool their identity, plan their business, future growth. Can you tell me a little bit about, and I'm kind of look at it in the sense of small businesses, because is there like a common theme that you notice with all your clients? Like, is there always something that you I mean, obviously there's going to be some are better at it than others, but is there a constant theme that you've noticed when you're doing, when you're talking or consulting with small businesses or businesses in general?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like my day job, I always joke when, my own mother doesn't exactly know what I've been doing for the last 15 plus years. And that's, I always joke that I just make words pretty. I feel like that's a nice intro into the conversation. Cause yeah, working with clients, a lot of times it just comes down to storytelling ultimately. And all communication basically comes down to how are we connecting? How are you kind of sharing either your message or what it is that you do? And it doesn't necessarily have to be a narrative industry that you're in. I mean, accountants or a community bank can have an interesting story as to what differentiates them or kind of how they go about it every day. I mean, the one common thread is I feel like everyone in the world wants to use the word community in some ways.
Yeah.
And so, yes, over the years, I have definitely backflipped trying to find a dozen different ways to say community without saying community. But sometimes people do. They really do invest in, people that are connected locally and really try to build relationships. And so, I find really when working with people, a lot of times, if you ask people, well, what are the 2 or 3 things that make you stand out? They might tell you, oh, community, or they might tell you, oh, it's expertise. But if you dig down deeper, you're really trying to find what does that really mean? Like how they think it's a kind of a simple term, but it's really like, what is the motivation? What is the energy that goes into that? And if you can kind of recognize that, then that's how you kind of build the story around it. Like, why is it that you feel strongly about community, or what is it about your expertise? How did you get to this thing? And it's, it may sound, an accounting firm or a local bank or, even a sandwich shop. you may not necessarily think that there's anything that different about it, but if you come into the motivations, like then you can kind of start to understand what it is that, gets them up every day or why they got into it to begin with. And those are the things that kind of make it unique, or that's how you can kind of tell the story when you're trying to, sell something to the community, or if you're working business to business. Those are the kind of the flex points, the differentiators that you're really looking for. Like, what is the actual story? Don't just tell me like what you do every day.
Yeah.
Kind of tell me why do you do it, or what is your motivation? Like what drives you through it? And sometimes it's hard to find that thing, but sometimes it's really easy. Sometimes it's, it's right there on the walls and they just didn't realize it to begin with. And that's the nice thing about getting to do what I do every day is, I get to learn a lot about someone's business and industry. So that's always cool. You get to make new friends with, different skill sets.
Yeah.
But beyond that, it really just comes down to, everyone's just trying to communicate. Everyone's trying to tell a story. And, it's lovely when you get to help someone who's so good at what they do, but they just don't necessarily know how to share that. So it's a cool thing.
And I think that's always the hard part. I think that's a hard part for everyone. Sometimes I think it's even if you're good at communicating, sometimes that's a hard part as well, especially if you're juggling so many different things. Sure. As a small business. So I totally get that. And I think that's kind of one of those things that sometimes you just kind of need to take a moment sometimes and kind of think to yourself like, okay, what is the core of my core values? What are my core things that I'm trying to message? Like what is my why? And then to be able to kind of help you with like, be able to create that story.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
I know that, so you do that part of it, but then I also know that you're a writer. So I know you like to write, and I know you've performed, and I'm always, that's the other, like, there's so many aspects that I'm very intrigued by you because of your creativity and then and the story aspect of it, because just recently you did a Fringe Festival, you did Liquid Courage, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about that and tell people a little bit about what that is, because to me, it's a solo show from what I know, and tell people a little bit about that, because I think that's something that takes so much courage to be able to kind of just be up in front of everybody and just be like by yourself and just do a show. So I'm kind of curious about like how that came about, what made you decide to do that, and then tell people a little bit about what it was.
Yeah, so I've got into storytelling really in the last, we'll call it plus or minus a decade or so. I was kind of drawn to it. So I write every day and I help other people tell their stories, but as a person who likes to communicate, likes to write, and comes from a family, the Wesley side was, we were definitely storytellers. My mom always jokes that when she first started dating my father, she met his family, and she had never met a group of people that would sit around together as a family waiting for their turn to talk, so they were great storytellers. They were just waiting for their turn to jump in and share something. Maybe not best story listeners, but they were great storytellers. And so I've always kind of, I don't shy away from microphone, or I don't, I'm a reasonable talker, but, having spent so much of my time working and sharing stories for someone else, I always kind of had a little creative interest of, kind of getting my own words out there, but I wasn't sure how that worked. And Orlando is an amazing town to live in for creatives because we've got great performing arts, we've got great visual arts. But in the spoken or the written words, it's a little fragmented because we have a really strong group of stand-up comics that are out there, and we have a really for the size a surprisingly strong group of slam poets and poetry readings and that sort of thing. But there wasn't necessarily anything that was kind of connecting those two or in between or bridging between spoken and the stage. So at one point, having tried out a few other things, I found the Orlando Story Club at one point, or I started going to the Orlando Fringe Festival, which is an amazing festival, 10 days every at the end of May.
Yeah.
And I just started seeing people that were up on stage kind of sharing their stories, or whether it was telling jokes or telling kind of dramatic things. And it really appealed to me. I connected with a few of them. Locally, Chase Padgett is very famous for a variety of his shows, and he's, over the years I've become friends, and now he films stuff for us on occasion at Orlando Story Club. So, I appreciated the kind of the opportunity to not only tell, something of myself. So I always have a little bit of humor in whatever piece I'm writing, but I also like a narrative arc. I want to start with something like this 5 or 10 minute piece is about something. Here's an experience that I had, and, we'll have a little give and take on what the story is. So it might be from my childhood, or a weird first date experience, or a time I continually struggled at baseball until I had a walk to win the game, or whatever it is. So if you have these stories that are kind of standing out to you, but how do you share them in a way that people are going to connect with? And so that's kind of how I got into storytelling. But yeah, this year. I had a great opportunity to actually debut my first solo show at the Orlando Fringe Festival. Again, a great organization and festival. Liquid Courage is really about that. It's a variety of kind of stories from my youth. Growing up, I grew up in Northwest Georgia, so kind of a rural approach. Outsider though, because my parents weren't from there, so I wasn't either. So kind of learning to embrace aspects of being a Southerner, even though I'm not really from there. And just the story Liquid Courage is really about memories of my father and kind of how he and I kind of came to understand each other. But it's also about, so it's not only about Southern shenanigans, my dad teaching me to throw beer bottles at road signs while we drove down the road, or my flailings at basketball or whatever else, but it's also about how memory works and, more importantly, doesn't work. Because as a storyteller, memory is really important to me.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to learn, how fragmented that can be or how we misremember stuff. So there's kind of a little TED Talk light approach to it. And then jokes about hipsters and craft cocktails and a variety of other stuff. So it kind of wove together, I think, pretty well. I was very, very happy. I got to do 7 shows in 10 days, which, for an hour show, like you said, once the lights go on, you're like, hi, I'm Bobby and I'm a storyteller and now we have to go. And that's what the show is. So it's, we take it from there.
Did you tweak at all, or was it pretty much like, did you have it like rehearsed, like it was down packed, or were there like, or did you kind of ebb and flow sometimes where things maybe kind of veered maybe somewhere else during during one of the different shows?
Oh, I certainly rewrote like most of the ending like days before I started, which most people would probably they would tell you not to do that, but any creative will tell you, yeah, nothing's really done until it's a week past. You know what I mean? But yeah, it's certain. There were jokes that I loved that after the second time, I was like, all right, well, I guess that one's not working. So I scratched that one and rewrite something and kind of tweak it a little bit. But it is live theater, because it's one thing to see a comedy special on Netflix or to see whatever it is that's been filmed. But when it's live, you really do have the opportunity to kind of interact a little bit or hear how the audience is responding to it. So that real feedback, again, the show certainly has its funny moments and there's some ridiculousness to it, but there's also some heaviness of kind of learning. Finally understanding like who your parents are. It turns out they're people just like you and I. Yeah. They're flawed human beings, and you don't realize that as a child when you think your parents are superhuman. But then reflecting back on those moments, you're like, oh, that's what was going on the whole time. So again, there's a bit of humanity and heart there, and so to hear people responding in real life to that, whether they were laughing or I heard one time an audible sob. I'm like, ha, it worked. I gotcha.
So you mentioned you write. So what is it? I'm always intrigued by like people's process. Like, so do you have like a journal and you just like journal, or do you write like you come up with like a cues and you just start kind of going? What exactly do you do?
So I'll show you. In any given time, I usually have.
It's almost like the size of a wallet.
Yes, using a visual cue for an audio medium now.
Yeah.
I just pulled out of my pocket. I have a little notepad that just pocket size, and I usually carry a pen with me everywhere I go. Because you never really know when things are going to pop out. Like I joked for the longest time with friends. I was like, well, you know how like when you're out at an event or you think of something funny or you remember a memory, and so you just take out your notepad and you write it down. And they're like, no, Bobby, nobody else does that. That's not a real thing that people do. And I said, oh, okay, I guess I should be doing something with these notes that I've been taking for years. So between my iPhone pad, I'm usually just writing down clips and phrases, you know what I mean? Like, oh, this memory reminds me of something or other, or I'm in the middle of sometimes a show in a darkened theater and I'm trying to pay attention, but also scribbling quietly in the dark. And most of those are illegible. But it's just, real life is a great prompt. We're all taking in stimulus and taking in interactions and experiences, and you never know what that's going to bring up in your own mind. I mean, those triggers are making neurons fire in interesting ways. And so, when you think of something like when something sparks in front of you that you haven't thought of in a while, I don't know, maybe follow that, you know what I mean? And so when it comes to, my own work, oftentimes that's what I'm following. Like, what is it that I'm thinking about? And if I notice over a week or a month, or even off and on over a 6-month period, this story or this experience keeps coming up in different ways. I'm like, okay, well, why is that? What am I going through right now that is reminding me of this time and place? And so sometimes I'll take that and like, okay, I should clearly sit down and write on that. And so I'll open up a Word document and just kind of, hash out the openings of it. And sometimes you end up with a new piece, or sometimes it's just oh, you were just bored, but you never really know. You know,
Yeah.
it's so. I mean, again, there's great prompts all over the place. So you never, you know, again, pay attention. You know what I mean? Like, I'm guilty of walking through Target or the grocery store, or even sitting out in public, you know, listening to podcasts and, you know, having, you know, as listening to my inner voice more, but you know, it's I love nothing more than going for a walk or a drive down a different part of town, because then you just see stuff that you never know it's gonna, you know, make your brain fire up.
Yeah. When you drive, out of curiosity, do you have music or no music, or are you listening to anything, or?
Sometimes music, more often than not, either I will, like, I'll catch up on podcasts because I like, you know, you find people that are, I often just like the interview things that are, you know, interesting people talking to interesting people, you know, so like, what are creatives, or just, you know, accomplished people, like, what is their process, or, you know, you never know what you're going to glean from those talks.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm a big comedy nerd, so you know, my XM sort of thing is often to the, you know, Comedy Greats channel or whatnot, and I'm flipping through trying to, you know, just get a chuckle and forget about the darkness that is the world around us. But
yeah, I totally get that, man. Yeah, it's one of those. It's interesting because, like, I think that it's there's a lot of times when it's amazing how you're right. Some of the verbal, like some of the cues or some of the things that come, and all of a sudden it triggers a memory of, like, when you were a kid, and then it always ends up leading to for me, it always ends up leading to some story. Mm-hmm. I laugh because my daughter, a lot of times, she's like, "I've already heard that story, Dad," and I said, "Yeah, I know, but like this, it kind of triggered it." And then she's like, "Wait a second, where did that part come from?" And then that's kind of how it kind of goes sometimes.
Exactly, and what I think is interesting about that, and this is something that, you know, I spent a lot of time when I was writing the show over the course of the last couple of years before I debuted it at Fringe. I was reading a lot about memory. I was really going through, you know, actually spending the time to research it. Imagine that. Like, I wanted to learn about a thing I wanted to, but again, that's how my nerd brain works. I'm like, all right, I want to do more about this, so let's read a bunch of books. So, and there's some interesting, like, literature about, like, memory being a reflection, and it gets a little bit more philosophical, but I really do believe that, like, the memories that come up are a reflection more of who you are and what's happening now. So like, you're telling your daughter the same stories, but new details arise. And why is that? It's not necessarily because you're just remembering new parts of it, because those were probably in there before, but something about the conversation you're having now, something about the experience that you're trying to relay, you find those added details to the story that are relevant now. Yeah. Like, you might have told this story, the very Cliff Notes version to begin with, either because she was younger and you were concerned about attention span, or you were just trying to explore one particular aspect. Like, oh, I had an experience one time. Did you know your dad did this? But over time, you find there's a lesson involved, or there's a, you know, cautionary tale, or just, you know, something funny is happening now, and you're like, oh yeah, do you remember that old thing that I've told you a million times? What you should actually know is that. And so the story is certainly about that thing that happened in the past, absolutely. But the importance of the story is the now. It's the who you're having a conversation with. So we all have friends that they have those well-worn tales, and you can just tell when they fire up. They're like, oh, here he goes. He's got that bar story, or he's got that story, like, you know, you're sitting around in the backyard and there's just one new person sitting around the fire. And so your buddy's like, oh yeah, about this one time, and it's almost rote. You know what I mean? You're like, and the punchline's going to be, and the next part is, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with those recitations. Correct. But to be in the moment means, you know, this came to me organically. This story came to me organically, and this part of the story is important now. Yeah. And that's, to me, that's like the beauty of storytelling. That's the beauty of, like, conversation in a lot of ways too. Yeah.
Do you the things that you write, do you share it? Where do you share it?
Yeah, a lot of time. I mean, I I get this from my mother. We are very deadline driven in our creativity. So a lot of times I'll have a thing that I've kind of been, you know, ping-ponging back and forth in my brain or on a notepad. There's nothing quite motivating like, hey, you're booked on a show in 4 weeks or something, or however long it is, to be like, oh yeah, you have to finish that piece and now rehearse it and remember it and get the beats down. So yeah, I am definitely more event driven oftentimes. Like, I'm working on this for this reason. But yeah, I mean, I've done a few of them, during the pandemic times. A few things were, we hosted online things, or we worked with Fringe, or we worked with Downtown Arts District, City Arts, on some things. So I read some there. But for the most part, I'm looking for feature shows that, that I may be booked on, or friends ask me to perform on.
Yeah.
The Florida Storytelling Festival in Mount Dora is a great opportunity for that too, because they have a lot of booked feature performers but they also have a lot of kind of, open mics or shows that are themed around certain ideas, or, I've hosted their Story Slam competition or their late night adults only sort of storytelling. So there's a lot of opportunities like that. So usually it comes down to, I have a piece that's either almost finished and I'm desperately trying to find somewhere to tell it, or more often than not, they're like, "Hey, Bobby, would you like to do something in a couple of weeks?" And I'm like, "Oh crap, I guess I got to finish this thing."
Nice. So you've mentioned storytelling, and I know I brought up in my intro Orlando Story Club. So you're the co-host of it. It's Orlando's premier and only live storytelling competition. Can you tell folks a little bit more about it, how it started? I know it started from one of the UCF guys that I think he was a UCF guy that did a Blair Witch Project.
Yeah.
He kind of started it. And then I guess you guys have kind of taken it over in the sense of the hosting aspect of it. Can you talk a little bit about how you got involved with that, and then just tell people what it is and just kind of give more insight? I'm so intrigued by it because I definitely want to attend one, because I just think it's very interesting. And obviously I always like to tell a story, but I'm intrigued because of the way how you have it set up. It's not just everyone just come up here and tell a story. Mm-hmm. There's a method to the madness.
Yeah. Orlando Story Club is one of the best things I get to do. I look forward to it. We do it every other month down at City Arts in downtown Orlando. And so the Downtown Arts District has been a great partner for us. And so we're happy to work with them. So it's community-based storytelling, like I said, and it is a very loose competition. Again, this is America, and people like to win things. So we do have judging and whatnot, but really what it comes down to is every event we have a theme, some sort of prompt, and then we just encourage people from the community to come and tell a real life story from their experiences. And it's true to them. We're not the New Yorker, we're not fact checking, but we just throw names in a hat literally and draw them at random, and that's the show. And so as a host, I've been doing it now with my co-host Danielle Ziss, who is a well-known a bright shining light around town. So we've been hosting it for about 6 years now, and it's a really great opportunity to just hear stories from kind of across not only our community, but from across the country, sometimes internationally. There's no age limit on storytelling. There's no age minimum. And you hear about all kinds of things. Some of them are very heartfelt and difficult. Some of them are hilarious. And some of them, there's everything in between. I remember the first prompt I think I ever got up for was tweendom. So as you can imagine, lots of coming of age stories or awkwardness or whatever else. We do a Halloween kind of themed thing oftentimes, or around holidays, or second chances, or whatever these prompts mean to you.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like what I was saying earlier. There's prompts all around you. It's oftentimes very helpful to be like, "Hey, Biggie, do you have a story about blank? What does this mean to you?"
Yeah.
And what comes to mind? And then you kind of form a 5-ish minute story around that. And then, if you're feeling brave, it's the most supportive room of anywhere I've ever performed. And I do think Danielle and I do a good job of trying to make that, again, welcoming, because we're just there to have a good time and we're here to connect. That's ultimately, I think, what storytelling does. It's, one of the oldest forms of learning. We learn really well as people from other people's experiences.
Yeah.
I can tell you, I grew up this way, or this is how I, learned to do this thing, or because I had this thing that went either amazingly well or horribly wrong. I learned a lesson from that, and you can too. And so it's a great way to connect with people. I've met folks all across Orlando, which has been lovely over the years. One of my best friends, I would say, in storytelling. And in life, she's in her early 80s now, but Madeline Potts is one of the most spectacular and just lovely and textured and detailed storytellers I've ever heard. And I love her to death as that. And she's, she's from a different generation. She grew up in Brooklyn at a different time, but every story that either she tells or I tells, we can't wait to talk about it afterwards because of all the things that you find you have in common with people, regardless of where they come from, and that's the beauty of it, really.
No, I think it's amazing. And you guys from my understanding, or at least from what I read, you guys also like, it's like $5 to get in, but you do like a lot of that goes to charity.
Yes.
As well, which
absolutely.
is like a great, which is another nice thing to be able to do. And obviously we've talked about the importance of storytelling, but like, and being able to tell a story. What are some things, and obviously like, there's like, have a beginning and, a middle and an end, but like, what are some core pieces that you would recommend for someone? Like, I'll use me as an example, or you can use anything, a small business as an example, but what are some things that, like for someone saying, hey, Bobby, I want to be able to tell my story, but I don't know how to go about it. Like, what are some of the core things that I should know to be able to share my story so people know more about me? Because in a lot of cases, as small businesses, we are the story. We are like, there's a story behind why you started your business, and things like that. And sometimes it's very difficult to be able to get it out, or at least like what tends to happen, I think, is people think that no one really cares. And I think that sometimes that's like we get in our heads very quickly, which is one of the reasons. So like, I guess kind of give me an idea of not just maybe in a small business, but you could even do it as general as like, what are some tips on being a good storyteller, to be able to tell your story? Well,
I think one of the first things that I'll say is kind of to that we all get a little bit of imposter syndrome, or regardless of if you're brand new at a thing or if you're wildly successful, I think all of us still at a certain point think, geez, there's no reason for me to share this, or like, this all been done before. And yeah, it has all been done. Listen to me. There's only so many chords, man. Eventually you're going to hit on something that Lou Reed covered a while ago. And that's part of it. But one of the I don't remember exactly where I picked this up, but it's a little reminder mantra for myself that I'll say in the mirror or whatever, whenever I kind of feel like, I'm out of ideas or all this. Yes, a lot of these, we've all told stories about a bad first date, or something formative, your first job, an interview, whatever else it is. It's different, and it's important because it's yours. And always try to remember that, because yes, we all have very similar experiences. That's part of being a human in this world. We all go through the world and we have these experiences, but that's part of what makes it relatable, So anytime you're like, this has been covered before. Well, of course it has, but that's irrelevant. Like, it's different because it's yours, and it's important because it's yours. And I always like to think a good one is the universal is in the specific. So if you tell me more, give me some details about what happened in that situation. Like, even if it's, walk me through exactly what happened at that baseball game, or walk me through exactly, like tell me something weird that happened. Give me you can drill down, because even if it's a once in a lifetime or a 1 in a million sort of moment, we're going to understand the experience, even if it's one we might not be able to have. You know what I mean? You're going to connect with people, but the story will be benefited from more detail and from the specific instance of what happened there. But anyway, an arc is great if you can do it. You can simplify a lot of things. I could go on forever about, I don't need to know all 11 people that were at your Thanksgiving dinner. You can really winnow it down to like, my aunt said this, my mother said this, and my grandmother was weirdly racist that time. Whatever it is. Yes, like, that's fine. Yes. Again, I don't need to know all about it, what everyone was doing while the Lions were playing or whatever. But I think at the end of the day, I always like to think, like, what's the takeaway, or like, where do you want the story to land? Because I've been asked to tell stories really off the cuff when they're like, and Bobby's going to do a piece. I'm like, oh, well, I wish I'd have had time to plan this, but that's okay. If I know where I'm going to start, so if I know my opening line, or if I find an opening line, and I know basically what emotion or what, like, how I felt at the end of it, or what I want you to feel, or what my experience, the stuff in the middle will kind of find its way there, even if it's a little meandering. That's okay. Again, we're all on this journey with you. So, the show, once the lights are on, once you have the mic, that's the show. So whatever nerves are there, it doesn't matter, because whatever you do is what's happening. Whatever the story is you tell us is the story we're hearing. But where do you want it to go? Where do you want it to land? Like, what, it's not as, what's the point is a little too aggressive, but how do you want us to feel? Like, if I think about this before I'm going to bed, what are the emotions, or what are the takeaways? And I think those are the main things. Like, the rest of it, we all have our different styles. My friend Madeline, you can feel and hear the leaves crunching under her feet as she walks you through the forest. I don't necessarily have that level of detail,
but
I'll bring you on an emotional thing, and then I'll give you some emotion, and then I'll relieve some tension with a joke or whatever. So we all have our own styles, and that's wonderful. That's part of the story being yours, regardless of where you're coming from. But tell me a specific thing that happened, and what is the takeaway? What did you learn from it? If you can find a way to communicate that, the rest of it will fall into place.
Yeah, no, I think that's great, because I know that I do know some storytellers that tend to give me way too much specifics in the beginning, and then I'm like, well, where are we going? And then I was like, oh,
was
no,
that guy again? Yeah.
That was it. And I was like, what do you mean that was it? Like, there was no point to what did you just tell me? You just wanted to tell me that so-and-so had a red sweater? I was like, what?
And those are great stories for the bar. You know what I mean? Like, again, my friends will tell you, Bobby has a tendency to go on a little bit and give you more details when you give him the floor. But if you're preparing a story, or if you're writing marketing copy for a brochure or a website, or, your tweets of the day, if anyone still is on that hellscape, you need to think about, okay, what are the buckets I'm trying to fill here? Or what are the boxes I'm trying to check off in terms of what's the intent behind it? Or what am I trying to provoke or emote? Like, am I trying to sell something? Okay, well, how am I driving towards that? If I'm trying to make you feel the time that I was, the first time I ever carved a turkey at Thanksgiving with all this chaos of characters going around. Okay, well, how do we get there? And, how are you going to deliver me to that place?
Yeah. No, I totally understand that. That's and that's one of those that I think to me is like, and especially I think especially in the world that we live in with social media and using China, and obviously like me thinking like, hey, if I want to tell my story, I also feel like sometimes we tend to think, well, I already did it, or I already posted it, and then we forget that like not knowing anyone else is actually seeing it. So like you can literally repost something that you did like 6 months ago, redo it, and you're going to see a brand new bunch. And you're like, well, wait a second, I did that. Why is more people actually seeing it or hearing it, or actually, and who knows, sometimes even reacting to it differently than other times.
Mm-hmm. Marketing professionals will tell you any drip campaign or full-fledged marketing campaign, it's going to take X number of interactions before people even start to remember it. Or, how many things do you follow on Instagram that you're like, oh yeah, I saw this amazing thing the other day. What was the account again? It takes several times to see a thing. And again, that's why it's important to really think about, your central messaging. Like, what are those buckets that you're trying to communicate? What's the real intent behind them? How do we integrate that into even simple messaging?
Yeah.
You don't have to be overt or heavy-handed, or, you don't have to beat someone with a hammer to understand what your brand is. But, if you understand what you're trying to communicate, eventually those sort of messages will start to sink in.
Yeah. No, I totally get that. I tend to be, unfortunately, one of those that forgets, even though I know these things, I tend to forget it. Sure. And then I don't want to I don't want to reshare the same thing again, even though you may sometimes want to be able to maybe reshare it in a different way and have a different message on how you do it. And maybe it's the same image, but you're sharing a different story or a different context to it. Yeah. Things like that. But
and with your brand, I'm always happy to see, you've featured friends of mine in photography before, and I'm like, oh, I'm always happy to see that person again, even if I might have seen that photo last year, but then I see their smiling face again in a cool design, and then I'm like, oh yeah, let's go back to Deli Fresh Threads and peruse the t-shirts and whatnot. Yeah.
That's what I try. I try to do mix. I really do try sometimes to not be the one that just says, buy my stuff, here's my stuff.
Yeah.
I want to be able to kind of just share that, like, hey, these are and a lot of times I'll use things, prompts like, oh, today's this certain holiday. So I'm like, okay, great. I'll use this as a holiday to be able to use as a prompt for social or to be able to share. A lot of times I do write, I'll write blog posts about like where my designs came from and what they're about. So that way people can kind of get an idea, because I don't just come up with something and just say, this is going to be a shirt and that's it. I tend to actually have, there's a thought process behind the story and there's a reason why I decided to go that route or what I've decided to do with it.
Yeah. It's not just how do I make a shirt that I can sell to this group of people. all. You want it to live within the concepts and the conceits within your own brand, and therefore it feels genuine. Because
Correct.
if you just wanted to sell to like Lakers fans and you tried to make pancakes out of it or something, you wouldn't necessarily, it might look fine, but it might not connect well.
Correct.
Because it doesn't have a genuine through line.
And of course, sometimes though, it also goes to the point where you may be so into it, and it's kind of like how you said, like how you would write down notes, and people would be like, "Why would you do that, Bobby?" But like, I'm one of those where, like as you were saying, like Los Angeles, like I have a French dip T-shirt, which the reason being is because the French dip was created in Los Angeles, but people don't know that. So then I'm like the sandwich nerd that no one knows why that's what it is. So I'll make sometimes a design over something. Perfect example. I wore a shirt a few days ago, one of my old shirts, and it was like a Liberty sandwich. No one knows that a Liberty sandwich at one point was the original name of a fluffernutter. No one knows that, but I do. So I was like, oh, I'm going to make this a shirt because I think it's cool. And then at the end, I'm like, well, no one really cared about it. They just thought they kind of liked the cool design, but they had no idea what it was about. And so there's a balance there as well on being able to share that story and at the same time be like, well, do they actually care, or will they actually care about this, or will they just be like, yeah, that's great, nerd, sandwich nerd.
But I think, but as a fellow nerd myself, like I'm fascinated by people that are fascinated in things.
Correct.
And so like that's like, now that I, that's the storytelling side of that.
Yep.
It's like, okay, I've got this cool background on a thing, and therefore this idea, like, you guys don't even realize how well executed this is. So now how do I find a way to share that story in a way that's like, hey, did you know, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I think, like sandwich holidays, there's a national something or other day almost every day, it seems.
Correct.
So yeah, those are great opportunities too. But those are really cool. Well,
Yeah.
I hope the Lakers turn it around and win a championship so you can sell more French dip T-shirts.
Trust me, so do I. So do I. When I did it, I was like, this is going to be great. And then I was like, they're not winning.
That's
so
right,
I'm like,
yes.
that doesn't help.
Yes, well, and that's funny because I think about I see all of your designs and I like many of them. But there's some that I think are great. But like, I grew up in Georgia, so I'm an Atlanta Braves fan. But you have like a great cheesesteak shirt for Philadelphia, and you have the great rye shirt for teams from New York and all that. But these are teams that I've been educated to hate, and therefore, like, the amount of time, Biggie, I swear to God, that I have spent trying to think of a good Atlanta-based.
If you can tell me, because trust me, I want. Like, people ask me, they're like, "When are you going to do an Atlanta one?" I was like, I don't know what to do for Atlanta.
The closest I've come, and here's my pitch, and it's not there. This is why, like, this is breaking news, ladies and gentlemen.
I love it.
I've thought about, and I haven't sent it to you because it's not quite right, but here's close. Okay, so you've got the Atlanta font, the Braves font, because that's, again, my primary. Biscuits are Southern. Atlanta is biscuit. Like, I think biscuits would be great.
I want like a chicken, almost like chicken biscuits.
Yes, and so, but we've got the tomahawk, which again, controversy over native imagery noted. You've still got that. How do we move? So the close-up comes like, do you use a piece of bacon under that, and then like a fried egg off the side? Is it? I was like, a chicken biscuit would be the best thing to do, but I can't. How do you make a chicken patty look like tomahawk or something?
I guess you could make it where you could do it like a Braves style. Like, I have thought of doing something Atlanta themed, but my Atlanta theme was going to be, I was going to end up creating, and I'll share this just because, breaking news type of thing. Like, one of my goals, and I'm going to put it out into the universe, is I would love to create my own just like I have imaginary sandwich shops that are T-shirts. I want to create my own imaginary sports teams that are all based on different leagues. So like, I have a soccer team that I have an idea ready for that I'm working on. I want to do like a minor league baseball team, and it's going to be a Georgia team, and it's going to be the Chicken Biscuits.
That would be fantastic.
Is kind of what I'm thinking, and what I'm thinking is it's going to be, and it might be Atlanta Chicken Biscuits, it might be something like that, but all I can see in my head, and I don't know why, but the imagery that I see is that it's a chicken and the glove is the biscuit. And so he's like a pitcher, almost kind of like where like that so you kind of can see like a chicken face with like a pitcher, but it looks like he's holding a biscuit like in his hand, like almost kind of like his glove or the ball. And that's kind of where my brain is going right now. And that's kind of because that's kind of, obviously the chicken biscuit, supposedly it was, Chick-fil-A in Georgia. And so so that's kind of where my brain kind of went. But yeah. And I also love like I love the Atlanta Brave, like with the A, but I also love like the lowercase a.
I'm a big fan of the lowercase.
I'm a fan
old school.
of, that's
I'm
the
old
one
school.
I like. So that's kind of where I would kind of lead to. Some people have asked me like, well, why don't you do something like that? Like it's also one of those where I'm like trying to find it where it fits just right.
Totally.
Because like when I did my po' boy shirt, people asked me like, well, why didn't you do a Saints version or something like LSU? And what I did was I went more of kind of like the colors of like purple, like the colors of New Orleans. And I used more like the architecture, like the gates and all that stuff in the lettering, because I kind of wanted it to be more of the sandwich and not the team. And I also thought the Saints font was kind of lame on a shirt. It just didn't really do much for me. So that's kind of what I'm playing. But yeah, I do have Atlanta, and I do have it's going to be Atlanta, and Chicken Biscuits is going to be what it is, whether it's a softball, like a minor league make-believe team, or it's going to just be the Atlanta, Chicken Biscuits or whatever. I just have to figure out how I want to make it work.
I love it, and I think minor league teams are great because some of the apparently there's a shortage of minor league ball casts because they're very popular. Because like you've got like there's so many fun teams, like the Trash Pandas are out there, the Savannah Bananas are famous, and there's a lot of them have kind of leaned into this kind of local weirdo sort of stuff. And so not only do I think that's a natural fit for how minor league teams are named anyway, you might even inspire the Rome Braves to become the Rome Chicken Biscuits or whatever.
We'll see. The Rome, it's funny that you mentioned Rome. Is that where you're originally from?
A little north of there, but yeah, like so near Chickamauga if you're a Civil War buff. Yeah, so almost Chattanooga, Tennessee. But because I have a friend who he was part of he did the branding for like this indoor soccer league that they played. They have a team in Orlando. They had a team in Central Florida, but they had two teams. They had one in Georgia. They had two teams in Georgia. They had Rome, Georgia, but they were like the Rome Gladiators. And it was amazing what it looked like, how they had it set up. I was like, I absolutely loved it. I love all that stuff. Yeah.
So like that to me is like my world, especially like my, kind of like one of my dreams. One of my things that I plan to do is I plan to go to Sandwich, Mass and Sandwich, Illinois and have a selfie and a sandwich there. And I love all those little minor league teams like that because of it. So I don't be surprised.
I love to hear it. That's what I admire about Deli Fresh. You do a great job of channeling the essence of those not only whatever the brand is that you're kind of, if you're replicating one or if you're inventing your own thing, it feels very connected, and I think you do a great job.
Yeah, I appreciate that. What advice would you give someone? Well, first we'll go with first for the Orlando Story Club. What advice would you give for someone wanting to attend and participate? Like what tips or suggest for them to be successful when they go do it? I know you guys provide the prompts ahead of time because on the website there's like prompts already of like when the next ones are. So you guys kind of plan that way ahead.
Yeah. So I mean, we announce them the whole year's run. We'll announce them in advance. So if you could kind of get your mental juices flowing. So yeah, I mean, think about a thing if you want to tell a story, but the beauty is like there's no requirement to tell a story.
Yeah, exactly.
So we love storytellers, but we love listeners just as much because
you always need an audience.
You do, and again, you can get so much out of the storytelling experience just from hearing what other people are going through too. So by all means, there a lot of folks are nervous the first few times. I mean, I think I went to the second one ever and had a story but was too anxious to put my name in the hat. So but I did put a one-liner, which is a thing we do. So we, by the same prompts, if you want to share a story anonymously, like with just a quickie 1 or 2 sentences, you can put that in a separate hat, and my co-host Danielle and we will read them anonymously from the stage. So it's a way to kind of participate and say like, well, here's what the prompt means to me, here's my story, here's my experience, and kind of like a funny little one-liner. Or sometimes it's a song. Danielle has a beautiful voice, yet I'm always the one that has to sing. But there's a lot of different ways to play. But if you want to tell a story, the main thing I would say is that, we've never had a bad story up there because if it's something genuine to you and it's something you want to share, like that's the beauty of it. Like I said before, it's the most welcoming room you'll ever be in if you want to perform because everyone there is there to hear experiences. And so we want to connect and we want to understand, people in our community a little bit more. But yeah, I mean, people rehearse in different ways. Some, we have professional storytellers that come that have performed at festivals and at the Moth and
That's
at
amazing.
Places. And then we have people that have come in that have never told anything before, or, at intermission, they throw their name in and they're like, I think I could do that. And they do a wonderful job. So, again, it's a very inviting room and we just want to hear your story, man.
Yeah, I love that. What advice would you give someone that's wanting to start something?
Oh, to start something? Wow. Again, is it something you really want to do? I think that's because, again, whatever it is that you decide to put your energy behind, it's going to take more energy than you probably think it's going to. So, it doesn't necessarily have to be a lifelong passion project, but like, do you like to do it? Does this seem like a thing you want to like do paperwork on a Friday evening, because that stuff is going to kick up. So yeah, certainly like some sort of interest and passion is there. But yeah, I mean, like, what's your motivation to do this thing? Like, think through like, what does it mean to you? Because that's how you do anything is how you do everything at a certain point. So, think about why do you want to make that sandwich? Why, there's many places to buy a sandwich, but again, what's making yours different? It's filling a role in your community and building the perfect sandwich that you think is the perfect sandwich is a beautiful thing to give to someone. But like, why do you want to do that? Why are you choosing this menu? Why are you choosing these services to provide to as a business? And, what does that look and feel like? Like, don't just go with the first name you thought of. Really kind of whiteboard it. Bounce it off people because, for good and for bad, as anyone who has expertise around things will find the good, will notice the good. Like, I can drive by and see a billboard and you're like, or walk into a new restaurant. Yep. And one of my best friends, she worked in commercial insurance for a dozen years or so. And we would leave a restaurant together. And one of us would be like, well, that place isn't going to make it. And you're like, well, why is that? And she would say, well, there's these 3 issues that I noticed. And I was like, well, I just noticed the fonts were inconsistent. And it's the small details, man. Like, you might not, and even if you don't have a design eye, or even if you don't know marketing language, or even if you don't know, you can't recognize like potential risk management issues. Yeah. Consumers are smarter than you think they are, and your audience is smarter than they, and you'll feel those if there's something that's if you're lacking that genuine note that genuineness at the core, people are going to pick up on it. So come at things with the best of intentions, I think. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of ways to spend our time and our money in this world. I want fewer hucksters and more people that are coming at it with heart and with good intention, and with really wanting to either serve their community or fill a role in their community. And whether that's something in the arts or whether it's the Nick's sandwich shop that will be represented on a Deli Fresh Threads t-shirt, you want to support good people.
Yeah, no, man, I'm with you 100%. And I totally agree with you on the whole avenue of genuine. I think that to me, that's kind of one of the key things where that's one of the things, that's like one of my recipes that I look for when I'm looking at even like the small businesses that I go and support. Cause I mean, I think there's so much, there's so many out there, there's so many options to choose from. So I totally agree with, with that.
At the 100%. End of the day, people want to do business or work with or support people that they know and they like. Yep. Again, it comes down to what the difference is you. There's always going to be people out there that can crack a better egg, or that can write a better line of copy, or can whatever it is that you do. There's a million people out there, but people want to go to you because they feel connected to you, or they like you, or that there's expertise, and then there's that personality, and both of them are really valuable. Yeah, no, I totally get that. What do you do? I'm going to ask you one more question, and then we'll wrap up, and then I'll ask you how people can follow you. What do you do for fun? Since obviously I know you like to write for fun, but sure. What do you do? What's one of your fun things that you do when you're not working or anything like that? Okay, well, I mean, I love going to stuff, so you can find me at stuff around town. If it's a cool arts event, or if it's how many times have we chatted? I was just gonna say, at a food truck parking lot somewhere. We've met quite a few times. Whether it's raining on us or it's 9,000 degrees outsght, I'm like, Biggie, what are you eating, man? And we just hang out under a tent for a little bit. So I like going to stuff like the Milk District is great. There's a lot of great places to hang out there. You can find me at craft cocktail bars many a time, even though I'm abstaining a little bit right now, trying to keep it in check. But yeah, I mean, I love board games, man. I like to assemble small miniatures and paint them and whatever else. So like, you can find me at artsy things and nerdy things all across Orlando. Yeah. I love it. Where can people follow you and learn more about Orlando Story Club? Yeah, definitely follow Orlando Story Club. You just search for that on Facebook. Especially that's where we share a lot of our events and things. Instagram also, we're there. I'm Bobby Wesley. I'm fairly findable as well. Or I'm the Bobby Wesley. I was going to say you're the Bobby
Bobby Wesley.
Instagram because, well, again, apparently there's one other Bobby Wesley in the world, and I want to make sure that if you're in the market for Bobby Wesleys, go with the Bobby Wesley.
I love it. No, I think, and it's funny because you said that because I actually was searching and I saw that as well, and I was like, oh, I'm like, there's more than one Bobby Wesley.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's a Highlander situation yet, but we'll get there. We'll figure it out.
I love it. Well, that's our show for today. For today, thank you so much to the Bobby Wesley for being on and having lunch with me. Definitely make sure to check him out on Instagram. Make sure if you're into it, I definitely am going to be attending. It's on my list of things that I want to do. Be able to attend Orlando Story Club. I want to be able to just even if as much as I would love to be able to tell a story, I want to be able to just go and kind of hear other people's stories and kind of interact. I think it's a great opportunity to kind of see that. I think other parts of cities, if you're listening from other places, there's other areas that do that. I know the originator was the Moth on it, so definitely make sure to check that out and see that. If you actually enjoyed the show, make sure to subscribe. Make sure to tell your friends. If you want to support me and my brand, Deli Fresh Threads, obviously I love sandwich selfies. Definitely send me those. But thank you. Until next time, keep eating sandwiches and follow your passion. Thanks, everyone.